This is something I've been working on for a lifetime. At this point in my life, I'm 69 years old. I've had years and years, oh my God, more years than you can even imagine, of experience in business. All the way from starting as a call center agent way back in the 70s to being a CEO and president as I am today. So, being the guy that I am, I started writing a book because I figured, okay, well, maybe someday someone will see this somewhere, pick it up, it'll plant a seed for them, they'll get some of the lessons that I've worked hard to learn. So with that, the book is called Lessons I've Learned in No Particular Order. I did grab onto a couple mentors, and all unbeknownst to them, those are the people that I learned with. So let me share with you some of the lessons I've learned in no particular order. Hey everybody, Steve Biederman, July 8th, 2022, Friday. Anyway, I get an opportunity to talk to you today, and I'm happy to do it. Over the years, actually, I was listening to the introduction as we were going on, and I was thinking, I have all these years in terms of work, and I really would tell you that I never thought that I would get to a point that what I was or what I had gained or what I had experienced in my life, much less my work, would offer any value to anybody else. For many years, I just worked and paid the bills or tried to pay the bills and had a lot of effort into just, making the balance of life work out. And over time, I began to realize, though, that I had to kind of pause and understand who I am. And I really suggest you all do that. And you pause at some point and say, okay, just me personally. Don't talk about it with other people to where you're bouncing things off of them, but bounce things off yourself and say, who am I? What do I believe in? And the way I got to this was I began to look at myself and say, what are the things I care about? What are the things that I stand for? What are the things that are sort of irrefutable in my life? And what does that equal in terms of my belief system? And I actually wrote down and began to write down all these things. And over time, I realized that there was a lot of consistency to what I thought. At the same time, there were certainly things that sat outside of that consistency. And ultimately, it gave me sort of a different platform to work off of. And I began to feel more in my element. And I was able to comment and make decisions that were much more valuable, I think, to people around me as well as myself. So that became this book that I'm working on called Lessons I've Learned in No Particular Order. And, there was no order to it. I just began to learn things over my life. And I think that's how it is for everybody. No matter if you go to school and if you take your classes in chronological order, and at the end, you've learned all of these stepping stones, ultimately, you got to get out into the real world. And when you do that, that real world throws things at you in any particular order. So, I hope that through this book, which is now beginning in video form, that it gives you pause. Maybe you don't learn the same things or believe in the same things I do, but it gives you pause to do it yourself and to think about how would you go about it if it were you and you were finally making your own decisions, because oftentimes we make other people's decisions. But today I want to talk about something in particular about priorities. We always talk in terms of the 18 million things we need to get done. And then we go, all right, well, obviously I can't do all of those things at the same time. So what are my priorities and how do I do that? When you look, if you ever go look at a project plan and begin to look at priorities, if anything is a priority 2 or a priority 3 or anything less than an immediate priority, what inevitably can happen is they keep getting pushed down. And oftentimes you'll get to these never-ending projects to where they're working, you begin to forget about some of the priorities and things that needed to be done, and you have sort of an iterative process, and that's certainly life, and that certainly happens. But I think that there is a way that you have to look at things, and I really don't like the word priorities because I believe that everything counts. You wouldn't be doing it or saying you needed to do it if it didn't need to get done. So if everything that you need to do needs to get done, but you only have so much bandwidth at any time, what do you do about that? And I think inevitably what we do about it is, as I said, some of those priorities drop off the map. And alternatively to that, you keep adding priorities to projects and you never get done. So there's a simple way in my mind to do it. First of all, I like to think that everything that needs to be done should be looked at on a flat line. Everything's important. So some things feel bigger than other things that are not as big, but everything, frankly, is equal, or you wouldn't, as I said earlier, need to do it. So, what do you do? Let's take a project as an example and look at the way I would go about it. So, I am releasing a new product in my business. And by the way, at Noble Biz, we're always releasing something new. We have new features that come out. We have new benefits that those features offer, new integrations, customizations, versions, and we want to present those all to the market. So what do you do? How do you do it? Let me tell you. I take a group of people and we go, okay, we're going to release this product and I need to release it as quickly as I can. I want everybody to sit down and have a session and lay out every single detail that needs to get done so we meet perfection in terms of our release. There are a lot of areas in my business that do that. You know, there is internal training, there are training guides, there's documentation, there's how do you support it, how do you communicate it, how do you market it, how do you sell it, and there's this whole list of things. And oftentimes when you look at those lists, somebody will say, all right, we've got 48 things to do to get this fully to market. Let's prioritize. And my answer to that is no. Let's not prioritize. But let's look at it with a little different slant. And let's do what I like to call 2 plans. One plan is, how do we fully do everything on this list and get that out in the next uh, whatever time it may take? We may lay it out and everybody says, well, you know, Steve, you wanted this out in 60 days, but for us to do this whole thing, it's going to take 6 months. And I'll go, okay, well, then it'll take 6 months to do that. But let's do one other thing in the meantime. Let's do what I call a sprint to market. Sprint. How do I sprint to market? So in every area of those 48 things, what's the minimum pieces that I must accomplish to be able to get it to market in a reasonable fashion that offers certain values not necessarily all the values. And how do I go about doing that? So then we begin to look at the list. Now, remember, we haven't talked about priorities at all. We're just saying, how do I sprint to market within my 60-day period? What can I get done in 60 days? So just go through that list of 48 and every single thing that I can do within the next 60 days, not prioritizing or shuffling, just what can be done in the next 60 days based on time, resources, capabilities, confidence. And then I look at that and I go, all right, if I do those things in the next 60 days, will that be enough to be able to offer that in the interim to the market? Usually the answer is yes. Now, we didn't change the fact that between 60 days and the 6 months to be full to market, that all those other pieces need to get done. We just said, how do I do and what can I do in 60 days? And is it viable if I do that? Now, most of the time, it will be viable. But the critical piece is never to forget you have the other things that still are important and still need to get done, in spite of that you're now sprinting to your market. So then what's another thing you can do? You can say, well, there's just so many things left that need to get done. And so you go, okay, let's make a plan and look at everything that can be done in the next 30 days. Not in any order, but just what can I do that doesn't take a heck of a lot of time and can be done confidently and competently in the next 30 days. And you begin to plan like that and you chunk it out, not prioritizing this being more important than this. Just what do I have the ability to do within that time frame? That's it. Just the ability to do. And if I do that in the next 30 days, after I've sprinted to market, will that give me something that I can add to what I've already done that will offer additional value? Let's say the answer is no. Well, that's fine. I still did those things in the next 30 days. And then you chunk it out and you chunk it out, and then you're done. And you begin to layer in those value points. Certainly, somebody can look at that and say, well, but Steve, that's prioritizing. And I would say, I don't see it the same way. Priorities to me, when I use that word or I hear that word, somebody is saying this is more important than this. And I'm saying nothing is more important than anything else. You just have to think in terms of these specific areas. Sprint to market, full to market. Sprint to the end, full at the end. Whatever the project is, it doesn't need to be a feature or a product. It can be anything. It can be, how do I improve my company? How do I build processes? You can take process and say, I need to redesign my service area of my company. And it's the same thing. What are all the things that are important to do? And what are the things that I can do and just have the bandwidth to do in the next 30 days? Not in a, this is more important than this, but just what can I do within a time frame? And then you examine it and say, is that enough for the moment while I begin to add these other pieces based on time more than priority? I don't want to go any deeper into it. I'll just be redundant because I've always found in business we complicate it when it doesn't need to be complicated. There is not much more to it. It's as simple as that or as hard as that. So with that, that's today's lesson that I've learned in no particular order. Next time we talk, I want to talk about what I think is a really fundamental, incredibly important, valuable, the essence of what makes an organization tick. And that is, how do I go build a passion play for our team and for our world? Well, with that, listen, thanks again for taking the time to listen. I hope this helped you. And come on over to Noble Biz, and you'll see that what we do here is certainly something that fits into these lessons we've learned. You take care. Bye bye.